theme for today, across the sessions really, is about learning and working as a virtual community. And it's something that I know we are all deeply interested in. And it's something that we do already. And in the context of Educate for Life, we have been learning together and working together actually since December 2018. For those of you who joined at that point, we are, I think, a few days away from our second birthday, as a matter of fact. So I just realized that earlier today when somebody wished me happy birthday with Educate for Life. I was like, we should have maybe pushed this event 2 days. Then I think we would have hit our birthday. But anyway, we can celebrate that separately, and we surely will. So we've been learning and working as a virtual community. And that has gone, really well. But there's a lot more I think we can learn about how do we learn together? How do we work together as a virtual community? How do we do it even better? Because we have a busy year ahead of us in 2021. I'll talk more about that at the end of the event today. What that means, what we are going to do. But for sure, it's going to be done as a virtual community, all of us being connected online. And we already know we can accomplish pretty much anything that we want as a virtual community. So it's a powerful way of being connected around a common purpose. And we want to learn more about how that works. And then I had the amazing pleasure of meeting Evelyn, who is equally interested in learning about how do we learn as a virtual community, and also specifically peer-to-peer learning in the context of a community. How does that work? How can we do it? And Evelyn asked me some really good questions about this. And I realized I have as many questions, if not more, back to Evelyn about this. So I said, why don't we arrange an event like this? This session here is to engage all of you, involve and include all of you in a discussion, in an exchange of thoughts, ideas, knowledge, experience around peer-to-peer learning in a community context. So we agreed to set up this session here, and we have invited you, all of you, and we hope you will be super active in this session. You'll be unmuting, you'll be sharing your thoughts, challenging the thoughts you hear, and give as much feedback and input to Evelyn for her work. And we will continue this work for sure together from here on. But this is kind of a kickoff, and it's to help Evelyn, but it's to help all of us to really get better at peer-to-peer learning as a community. So with that, I really want to hand over to you, Evelyn, to take us into this conversation and facilitate and get us all involved. And we have 45 minutes roughly, and then at the top of the hour, we are getting ready to hand over to the next session, which is kind of related. It's more about the motivation factors for participants in a virtual community. That's another story, but it's related. But for now, welcome, Evelyn, and it's amazing to make this happen together. Over to you.
Thank you, Lars, and thank you everybody to be here. I just gonna very quickly present myself. I'm Evelyn. I'm doing at the moment a master degree of educational entrepreneurship in Finland, and there I had to do a thesis, a master thesis, and I decided, because I have a big heart for communities, I decided to do that about peer-to-peer learning on digital or on online communities. Yeah. who am I from before of where was I a long time ago? From origin, I'm an anthropologist, but I have 16 years of experience in business coaching, and now I'm already teaching for 2 years at the University of Applied Science in Belgium. I'm from Belgium. For the rest, I like to be creative, artistic, and I like to learn to try new things. And I have already, because I was working in the startup community also in Belgium, I have a lot of experience within communities. And that's why I wanted to do my thesis work and why my interest is there. And when I see at the communities, I realize that more and more people are a member of one or more communities. So first question, take some time. I'm sure that all of you are members of one or more communities. Imagine those communities and think for yourself, why did you become member of that community? And it can be all kinds of communities. Huh? Why did you become a member, and do you see a difference between those communities? So take that with you. Before, I wanted to explain some small things because, okay, I'm interested in communities, but why about peer-to-peer learning or knowledge sharing? What I saw within the communities is that there is much more information sharing, than knowledge sharing. What do I mean? If I see in the communities, sometimes people ask something like, I want to digitalize my invoices. How can I do it? But that's a quite general question. So it becomes very difficult and people are just summing up some tools. So that's, for me, is information sharing. Yeah. And this information and even content of theory we can find all over internet. That's not a problem. People are looking for more for experiences. Yeah. So I saw that. And then I was thinking, okay, but in the communities, how do people learn from each other, from peers? Yeah. Maybe a little bit also information about peer-to-peer learning. So peer-to-peer learning, you have even a difference when they use the word peer-to-peer learning. They have what they say peer-to-peer teaching, and that is between people, between peers, but there is always an expert and somebody who learns. So you have really a kind of same relation, but as in a school or a class. The other one, peer-to-peer learning, is when the peers are equal. It's in a discussion that you change or learn. Yeah. So that's also something that I want to give to you. But first of all, I want to come to my first question. I give you some time to think also. Who is member of a community? I think all of you are member of a community. How many communities? You can shout. Of how many communities are you member? Is it 1, 2, 3?
And you're speaking specifically to online communities?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, on online communities. Thank you.
Especially during COVID, many, in order to explore the different conversations and find your like-minded
people. Yeah.
People, but yeah, the thinking for what more you haven't thought of or you should consider.
Okay, and what was the main reason to meet those people, or are there other reasons why you become member of those communities?
For me personally,
yeah.
We are small. We are a very large community, but with a very small operating system. And I saw how many operations, systems, communications, educations were outdated and no longer serving us. So I went about finding others who felt similarly so that we might build and learn from one another. It was within the musical community for myself for years. And then I just realized how insular that still was and how secular in a way that didn't best serve us. So I started looking for those like-minded outside of the music world who were in operation systems, educations that best served us, who are those who could lead us in technology and AI.
So you don't stay in one community, you go and looking abroad for,
Exactly.
Yes. So it was...
That led me to the UNGC, the United Nations Global Compact. It led me to Lars, but it was actually through Salim Ismail and Peter Diamandis and some of those who are contributing great forward thinking, the action areas with the operations and the systems, the communities for a better world.
Okay, so there was a clear goal, quite large.
Yes.
Or some values that were
exactly
comparable. The
integrity.
I'm seeing that Mark said that gaming communities are particularly gaming communities for very complex games are hotbeds of education and learning. Yes. And I take that one because that's something I saw also with my research until now, that you have a big difference between the gaming, the UX, the coding communities and other communities or other learn communities. And that is often because in those coding and UX communities, there is a very specific common goal, and every learning question is quite specific, and the knowledge that is shared is really directed to an action, instead of the communities like we all are in, Educate for Life. The common goal is quite large, and the knowledge that is shared is not always followed by a certain action. So that's a difference that we see. And so sometimes the questions that we ask in those more, I will say, more undefined or communities are not so specific or more general, and that makes it sometimes more difficult to feel. Also what Wagi is saying, yes, you have to communicate. What does the other mean by it? Do we understand the same thing? So you have a lot of other influences. It's quite more complex. Yes. Other people who are seeing differences when they are in a member of different communities, difference in the communities, how they react themselves or how they learn within those different communities.
It depends on how the conversation is led.
Okay. And can you give an example?
And where the listening is. Well, there are frameworks for what the context is of the conversation to help navigate that. It depends on the intention of the conversation and the outcome you're hoping to achieve.
And that's also a little bit connected with what we said before, because it's quite more complex, all the situation, and we all have a different view. You first have to understand the other one, You have to listen, you have to ask questions, you have to often make the question more specific. It's really like a dialogue first to understand each other. So yeah, that's true.
Sometimes the meeting place is something personal. And generally that's the most beautiful place to start.
The meeting place.
Is generally a personal place where you can connect in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. And can you find a meeting place in every community?
It depends on your own personal objective.
Okay, that's also nice. Yeah. Mm. And how do you, for example, how do you start that action or start that process of looking for a meeting place? How do you start with that?
Well, the introduction in your introduction of who you are and the line of questioning definitely leads and helps to frame the conversation. I'm in the music world, I'm not in your world whatsoever, but I am in education, and I do feel create a partnership with those who I work with, and I think with regards to peer-to-peer teaching as opposed to peer-to-peer learning, it seems to me that in peer-to-peer teaching, there isn't a listening expected by the student. And there's not space until invited for conversation of learning back and forth, of exploration. In a peer-to-peer learning, you're there to learn from one another, to share with one another, but you have to each be in the listening of the other. Beauty is in the exploration and the freedom to see where within the confines of a context where you might explore and where you might go together. And there may be an overarching view, but you allow the freedom to see where that conversation might go.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you. So nice. Yes, yes. That's something indeed we ask in a really a peer-to-peer learning situation. We ask a lot of who wants to learn. You really have to be active, explore, listen, really get in an interaction. Yes, yes. Yeah.
To want to know what the other's thinking.
Yes.
With the young children, to me, it was an honor and a privilege to help my children navigate their lives, and an honor and a privilege to be there to help others navigate their lives. And in doing that, it brings such beauty to our own lives and helps us navigate our own.
Yes, because that's indeed, if you go to interaction, you see, as also Wagi said in the comments, there's a need for cultural understanding and for putting sometimes somebody else glasses on, or to discover an all other framework of thinking and cultural background that really can help us and that really enriches us. And I think that's often still forgotten this time, the richness that is in the interaction between humans. It's really undervalued, and that's why I'm really interested in this. Yeah.
Yeah, nicely said. There are some things that have been lost in relationships. And then there is also an incredible opportunity for us globally to learn culturally who we are and how we learn and engage.
Yes,
it's an incredible opportunity right now.
Yeah.
We're in a wonderful place for exploration right now.
Yeah. We all are. we're doing it together. So it's really nice. Yes. Okay. So, and if you, it's for everybody who wants to interact. If you look at yourself, that's already not so simple, but if you look at yourself, can you see when it's easy to share knowledge, to learn, and when it's not? What helps, what doesn't help?
Shall I jump in here again?
Yeah, if not nobody. This
whether the environment is set up in an accepting way, judgmental way. Whether those sometimes it's an energy that's critical and judgmental. There's less freedom and space for others to share freely.
Okay.
I just want quickly to say yes. That is nicely put, which is something that means a lot to me in particular, and it is for all of us. It has to be a place where we feel also respected and included and involved. And what I just wanted quickly to build on what Maribeth said before about giving to our children, because and I've not really looked at it this way before, but I guess sometimes we join a community with the goal of getting something, getting some information, getting some knowledge, getting something. But other communities, probably in the culture that they've been building, is more about giving. People are there to give, and those of us who are doing our best to give, we know that there's no better way to get than to give, right? Whatever you give comes back so enriched and just so plentiful, and I think that's an important thing in a community, that it's about giving. It's about a lot of other values as well. But if you see a lot of the community members are there to give, to support, to contribute, rather than to get, then it will be very meaningful to be part of it. And then by nature, I think it will be a place where you will feel welcome and you will feel respected, and it's a safe place to play, right?
Exactly. Embrace.
Yeah.
Embrace and accepted.
Yeah, it's about belonging also, belonging to feel good in the place, and trust, affective and cognitive. If you cognitive trust also is important in this case. Yes.
Connected.
Yeah. And other things, for example, how do you share? How do you prefer to share? I see some people are more like texting. Other people prefer to send a little message and go directly to a video call. How do you that, or how do you, because when you're in a community, how do you check somebody is to trust, yes or no?
Lars,
do you do a check or not, or?
Yeah, I mean, I can give a step from my own perspective at this. It's a great question. I'm sure everybody have their own preferences, their own ways of doing this. I think we're all overwhelmed by the many communication channels that we have and the number of messages we are getting on all of them. And I think we all do a lot of video calls, a lot of texting, a lot of everything else as well. So I have no idea which one is my favorite. And I don't particularly do any screening, or any of that. I personally come from a high trust culture. I know cultures are very different. And in some cultures, you don't trust people by default, and probably for good reasons. And also, obviously, we cannot trust everybody. Also, in my culture, you cannot, but it is a high trust culture where by default, I trust people until the opposite turns out to be, true. And that's very rare. It's very few disappointments I've had in my life from somebody. It's always been paid back with trust immediately as well. And then you have a really open and good relation right there to build on in your communication. And then you are going to need all those channels that you can imagine for the ongoing communication. That's how I personally see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and yes, because trusting somebody is taking, in a kind of way, is taking a risk. Huh? But it's okay for me. It's also okay. I don't check either.
So far from my side, but it's there, of course. It's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's never a risk in listening to someone, right? Listening to somebody is no risk at all.
Right? That's true. That's true. Yes. Yes.
Yes. If I can add, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Hi. I come from a so-called high trust culture too, which is the U.S. So I always trusted, but I see you shaking your head because the trust in this country is going way down. But you have to compare it to where I work. I work in developing countries where nobody trusts anybody. So compared to that, we're high, and there's a reason for that. And now I trust very little. I've been burned so many times that I now check and I trust. I look, and I think that's because I've worked in low trust societies where the people there don't trust and are sketchy with the truth. But it also attracts all kinds of people from so-called high trust societies, including the US, who are just as sketchy with the truth. So I've been burned equally by locals and by foreigners. And when I find this, when you come to these low trust, and I want to say again, I feel that since I was a kid, the US is way less trusting than it was from when I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. I see that the trend is going down, 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 down for us. I'm not sure how high trust we are anymore, but I find that low trust societies attract the ne'er-do-wells from the so-called high trust societies too in a lot of cases. And so you have to be careful. And I just wanted to mention too, that regarding the communities, I'm actually was always adding myself to communities, and especially since the Zoom thing, since the COVID, I've been ruthless. I was just getting so overwhelmed with the information, and I read a lot about psychology and all this stuff. And this is part of the game that humans, they know how humans' evolutionary brain thinks, and they want to, you have the fear of missing out. And once that was pointed out to me, I read that, I realized, hey, that's exactly what it's doing unconsciously. And I didn't know. And that's why I'm subscribing to more email lists and more communities and all this. So I've actually been cutting tremendously because I find that with so much information, I know my personality. If I have access to the information, I can't stop myself. But if I don't have access to it and I don't know it's there, then I can stop myself. So I've been ruthlessly cutting myself from communities. I've been ruthlessly cutting myself, mainly from email lists, just hundreds of them. I'm just going crazy. And and the thing I wanted to say was, what about that? Well, about the communities, it brought up an interesting thought. I'm getting from the communities I'm in, I get something from all of them, but I also get a lot of fodder in there. And I don't get everything, so I have to join different communities for different things. And I wish there was some AI, the same with the emails. Even if I'm subscribing to an organization, they're sending 50 points and maybe one is what I need. And it's the same with all interactions and all these different communities, exactly. But even to such a specialized level, I know we have that already, Lars, great point. But I wish such a specialized level that I didn't, you know what I mean? Because even subscribe to, say, news of Central Asia, where I work in the former Soviet Union usually, even though I'm in New York now, I'm still going to get 50 points, 50, and one's going to be relevant that I need. Even as I wish there was some way that could just take everything I need and cut out the other 90% that I don't need, but there doesn't seem to be that yet. So that's unfortunately why I have to just cut and cut and cut. And so on. Now, I find in communities like this, speaking about the trust, well, it's much easier to trust someone. I mean, then don't get me wrong. I mean, these are people, like-minded people, and so on. Doesn't matter what culture they come from. But I'm just saying, in general life, my level of trust has gone way down based on life experience. And I just see level of trust in so-called high trust societies going way down too. Still, it's much higher than where I work, where nobody trusts anybody ever. But I see a negative trend in the high trust societies too, in terms of trust. So I hope that was, sorry for rambling there.
No. No, I think you touched another interesting point, and that's the fear of not knowing something. And for me, it's on the other side. It's also time and energy, scarcity. So you have to choose. So it becomes really important. When do you become a member of a community? What is your personal goal? What do you want to reach? What do you want? And I think also if you are a member of a community, there's a certain personal goal, and hopefully it fits with the common goal. Otherwise, you will not stay member long enough. That's something that's also really interesting, and I think also that's why nowadays people become member of communities, but sometimes for a certain period, and then they leave.
That's what I've been doing, because I just joined too many things over the years, and and now especially with the Zooms happening, it got out of control again. I had it down to a normal level, and since the virus started, it just became out of control. So I've had to do that. And as I say, just to repeat, for me, what seems to work is I can't control myself if I see the information. I have to read it. But if I unsubscribe and so I don't see it, then I find I can control myself and I don't go searching for it. So for me, what works is not knowing it's there. If I know it's there, I can't control myself. I know myself, in other words. So that's why I have to get rid of all of it.
So what would it take or what is it that you need so that you can better move forward in your work? What is it that you need, or what can be offered, or what can we find for you that would better save your time and help you to move forward?
I'm not sure, as I say, thank you for the question. I'm not sure that it's out there until AI comes up with a system where I can get all this information that people are throwing at me and distill it to the 10% that I need and get rid of all the rest of it. And then there's a danger again that when we're using AI, well, then I'm walling myself off into a what do they call them, bubbles and all that, which, by the way, that's one of the reasons why trust has gone down in this country, is everybody's in their bubbles, in my opinion. It wasn't like this when I was growing up. But still, I mean, I'm not God. I can't worry about it. I have to worry about myself here. And until AI comes, because it's not just me, it's everybody. I'm sure you're all getting, you're interested in some cause, even you're interested in, say, your music and stuff. And you're probably subscribing to stuff or getting, 90% of information that doesn't apply to you. And there's that 10% that you really like and you really need. And it's not in one place. You're getting, 1% from here, 6% from, and so that it just takes, it's the AI assistant somehow, I guess. That's a only solution.
It's getting straight to the point. And there are a lot of email subscriptions that are a long stories in order to get you to subscribe to them or subscribe to their education, or just to give you one simple answer that you're looking for. It's
Right.
a waste of time. On many, there are conversations. I'm in and out of many global conversations and across the board, what they're saying is that the more that technology and AI is there meant to bring us together, the further apart and the sicker the world is becoming. We're becoming more and more siloed.
I agree 1,000%. From what I see growing up, I agree 10,000% completely. When I was
disagree.
Yeah.
I'll disagree.
Yeah.
Please jump in here.
If I may. Somebody once said something to me, which I posted, which is that if something is really important, it will find you. And I think that gets rid of the fear of missing out. Just say, it's going to find me if I'm here. I thought it was interesting, Daniel, to hear what you said, because I have the exact same attitude towards food. If it's there, I'm going to eat it. If so, I just try to have.
I do too, by the way. I'm the same way with the food as I am with the emails. So I avoid buying the food in the first place, and then I don't eat it. It's
partially called an addictive personality. I mean, you get addicted to this stuff, and if you're that person, you have to control yourself, but not everybody is that. It's not the fault of the information. There are some very good things. How many of you know Future Loop? Future Loop is something that does that. It's an AI that actually does that, gives you a lot of interesting stuff that you can look at very quickly. I think this stuff is available, or soon will be available, for where we can put in our own parameters. I think it probably is available. So you should look harder for it. But I don't think that we're overwhelmed with information, or at least maybe that young people are. We used to have a little, now we have a lot more than we used to. But you used to have the same problem. You'd go to a library and there'd be 1 million books there. And which ones do you read and which ones do you think? And we used to have teachers or editors who were the people who were supposed to find the stuff for us and connect it in some ways. And though that role is in the process of changing. The role of humans doing that, because there's too much for any human to do that, is really is changing in society, and we just have to understand that and live with it. And our kids are going to think very different. I never met a kid who told me I'm overwhelmed with information. Never. It's only the people who were underwhelmed before, and you kept referring to growing up, Daniel. It's only the people who were underwhelmed before, when we thought we had things in control, and now we don't. It's a generational thing, I think.
My opinion is, we've been overwhelmed by information since information first existed. I was overwhelmed by it growing up too. It's just gotten worse and worse.
But you.
But it's a lot of people. My niece sits at the computer for 8 hours a day on God knows what, such because it's there, the social media, the this, the that, this. I think
you see that as bad. See, I don't necessarily see that as bad. It depends a whole lot on what she's doing. We're going to be connected to machines symbiotically from now on.
When we reach singularity, maybe it's not bad, but until then.
way before the if you're overwhelmed, the world is the greatest information, the biggest database in the world that we're all connected to is the world. Just like, the only true map is the world. Everything else is an abstraction from that. So we're all connected to it. We're not overwhelmed. We live, we do it. And so this, I just don't see that it's a real problem. I mean, there are lists you trust, there are lists you don't. Every once in a while, you tune into Fox to see what they're up to. There are people there that you trust, that you don't. You've got to make some decisions here.
I am. That's why I cut out hundreds of lists of emails. That's what I'm doing. I've cut
Good.
hundreds of lists.
Do it every day.
Yeah, but what if you have an
decide who
addictive
you are.
personality? What if you have an addictive? Lots of people get addicted to things, and I know I have an addictive personality, so I don't want to make this, but that's the point. If you have an addictive personality, it's not so easy to do what I'm doing.
But you treat the addictive personality and not the effects of the addictive personality.
How many people can treat their addictive personalities?
Anybody who tries.
Very few of them even try. So
that's the problem.
And we're not aware.
All right. And they're not aware. They're not aware. I wasn't aware. I studied my triggers in my 40s and I learned these are my triggers. And now I know all of them. I wasn't aware I was doing all this stuff.
That's why education and bringing up kids is so bad. Because you
should. I agree with you. Well, nobody is. So that's why we have all these problems. Anyway, okay.
Okay, no.
Sorry.
Where were we? Huh?
Sorry.
About AI.
I ran. I'm finished.
No, it's okay.
Back to you.
Evelyn, I'm curious what you're getting from this conversation.
What am I getting? Yeah. First of all, it's interesting to see some things confirmed that because I did some interviews and research, and some things are confirmed again. Otherwise, what about overwhelming the scare and the scarcity? It's also a normal human reaction, I think. And the question about if artificial intelligence can be a help, it can be a technology that can help, is a great question, I think. But it goes further because AI is AI. And on one side you can say we are already quite far what we can do, but on the other side it's just the first parts that we can really do. And what about the ethics there? How can you that's also another discussion, of course. But I think it's important to see how you can, because that was the main question, how can we facilitate peer-to-peer learning within a digital community? So, and that's something I want to scope in now a little bit more. Is it a kind of tool? Is it a technology, or is it just a methodology? I don't know. So I just wanted to see also, if you look at yourself and you are learning, or you are changing or sharing knowledge, what's helpful? Why do you give knowledge, or how can you easily capture knowledge from each other within the peer-to-peer learning in the communities?
I'd go one step back. Why do we want it?
Why do we want to learn?
Why do we want to learn? Why do we want the knowledge? Why do we want to do this? My perspective is we do it in order to accomplish. That I don't really care about learning for its own sake. And so you're trying to accomplish something. And in order to accomplish whatever it is that you want to do, from writing a book to doing a project, you then search out the information that you need and put out your tentacles, and hopefully it comes to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what is the other things? The
tools, the community,
mm-hmm.
the system, the operations, the communication.
Those are just ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some people need the ways.
Yeah.
But to what end? The point
that a world that works for them.
For you, right?
For me,
that would be the first thing, and then hopefully there's a crowd of people around you who wanted to work similarly to you, don't you think? And therefore, you are trying to do things that make the world work in the ways that you think are valuable to have a world work, whether it's in your community or the world or the larger world.
For a
And
world that works for them.
yeah, well, them is us. So, you know, but the only way that happens is not by learning stuff. The only way that happens is by accomplishing stuff, by getting things done, by having, and so my perspective is we learn and we get information in service of doing something. And if we haven't figured that out, what we're trying to do at any moment, then we're going to get lost in just collecting random information.
That connects again with what I was telling in the beginning. I don't think you were there already, Mark. That's you know, that there's indeed a difference between when you look at communities of, for example, coding communities. They have a real clear common goal. They have specific questions. They really have, yeah, everything leads to, every knowledge that is transferred or shared leads to an action. And there, yeah, and that's indeed a difference that I saw with the code community or UX communities. You have a game community and the other communities who are much more, the goal is not so specific. And I think the personal goal for the members is even more bigger, because the common goal of the community is not that defined or small, focused.
Yeah, but academics, which we've all been through, and we all went through, have given us the perspective that information by itself and connections by itself and being an educated person and knowing various things is important in and of itself. I think that's a lie that they have perpetrated. It's fine for some people, but for the most of the world is trying to get things done. And so the people who want to just go to a community because, oh, gee, I'm really interested in that, you know, we should put that aside. The people, the communities that count, the ones that Daniel wants to belong to, that I want to belong to, are the ones that help me get done the things that I want to get done. And the ones that don't, well, I'm a curious guy and I look at a lot of YouTube, and I try to do it as randomly as possible when anything strikes my imagination. But that's kind of that's the sideline. That's a personal thing for me, but that's
in part it's getting things done. But for others who get things done, sometimes it's the inspiration. It's the inspiration. It's being a part of the community that matters to help keep things going.
Well, if it inspires, I'm for that. If it inspires you, then that's part of getting things done. In other words, if I want to, you know, my goal is to help kids, and anybody who comes up with, any community comes up with an idea that I hadn't thought of, with something or doing something good, that's fine. But you know, there are a million things, people trying to help kids in ways that I think are wrong or just not helpful. So I don't want to be part of those. Right, you want things that inspire you. Absolutely.
To create more awarenesses, sometimes they're just simply the transformative conversations that then leave space and a place to get things done on their own. I've seen it so clearly, time and time with children.
Yeah, but right? I don't disagree. I'm for it. But the question is, how do you facilitate that and not all the other ones? Because if you were to put those in proportion, you know, mathematically, those would be a very small number. And most of the interactions that most of us have, I'm not speaking for you, most of the interactions are not, unless you happen to be talking with the right people.
Well, it definitely needs to be partnered with a system that and a framework and a community that helps and supports one another in the advancement. So there needs to be follow through.
Right, but we choose our friends. You know, the interesting thing is that we choose the people that we think are valuable and are going to help us. I mean, if I had to choose between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, I'd pick Elon Musk, right? Other people would pick Donald Trump. The to be connected to and to have in my, you know, in a group. We all choose based on what we want to accomplish. I think the ultimate goal
as adults, yeah, as adults. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the context of the conversation, of what age group, what peer group, what stage you are in life alters that.
Yeah, who you are and what you're looking for. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Lars?
Sure. What is your first name so I can say hi to you?
My name is MB. It's Merida.
MB. Okay, you call yourself MB? Good. I will call you MB. I'm Mark. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure.
Where are you, MB?
I'm in downtown Toronto, Canada.
Toronto. Okay. I'm in Palo Alto, California.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Does somebody else have?
This is your opportunity to wrap up, I believe. Lars, where are things at?
Yes, it is. In terms of the first hour of our event today, we are coming to the end of it. As you know from the chat here, and those of you who joined early, we have been discussing how can we facilitate peer-to-peer learning in virtual communities. I think we have come around quite many interesting angles and perspectives and challenges and opportunities. I'm sure there's a lot more, but in conclusion, Evelyn, and you have been guiding us very well on this topic and in this discussion. Would you like to kind of conclude your key takeaways for the research and studies that you are starting, and which mark the start of a joint journey together on peer-to-peer learning in communities?
Yeah, I still see that indeed the community and how the community is, the belonging, the trust is quite important, and the common goal. But also I think it's interesting to see indeed the personal the personal goals, the influence of that. I've seen that also within my research, those two, and now I have a word for it, the addicted one, the one who is addicted in information or learning itself, and the other ones who have a really a personal goal or to get things done. So as Mark said, so that I think it's quite interesting to put that next to each other. And the help with AI is I think also an interesting way to see it, with all the key, or the, how do you say it, the comments next to it, but it's maybe an idea that we have, like the adaptive learning systems, a system that looks for us for the right communities that can be helpful. But then you're not sure if it's a good community for you. So that's just one step. That are the key things that I take, and I will look further. Yeah. Through it. Thank you all, and thank you, Lars, to give me the opportunity, and thank you all for your activity and responses.
Thank you, Evelyn, for raising this exciting topic, which I know we're all deeply interested in. So in wrapping up the first part of our session today, Evelyn has been guiding us through the jungle, the interesting jungle around peer-to-peer learning in communities, how we can facilitate that, what the opportunities are, and some of the challenges maybe as well. So we have had a good discussion which you can all enjoying the recording, those of you who are joining now for the part 2 of the session. So thank you, Evelyn. We'll continue to discuss this in our Educate for Life community with you and with everybody, and continue to learn together on this topic. Evelyn will be doing her studies on some of these topics and hopefully come back and share with us along the way. So thank you very much for being part of this.
With pleasure, thank you.
And with that, I want to start transitioning into the second part of our session and make it a seamless transition, I hope. And it should be, because it's a very closely related topic that we are going to talk about next. And I'll introduce the topic in just a second, but I just want to welcome everybody who didn't join the first hour. And I see so many amazing friends here, so I'm almost in tears, so I should turn off the camera for a second. But I just want to welcome Diana and Eric and Jerry and Charlotte and Lucine and Heron and Rick and Erwin and Jeanette and Carla. It's just amazing. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to wrap the year here. It's been a crazy year, so wrapping it together is such a nice thing. We have so much lined up for 2021 in our community. I'll talk about that in about an hour from now, not for an hour, but in an hour. So, but before we talk about 2021, we have another topic to discuss, and it's very related to the peer-to-peer learning in communities that we talked about in the first part of the call. And I was just so excited about being on the front row at a virtual conference, the EURAM 2020 conference. I think it's now a few weeks ago. This is 1 or 2 weeks ago. Time flies, lots of calls, but I'll never forget the moment when Charlotte and Lucine presented many hours of studies and work on the motivation factors of participation in virtual communities of practice. And that's what we are, that's what Educate for Life is, a virtual community of practice, which is in our case about the future of education, whatever that means, but that's what it's about. And we've been gathering interviews from participants in the 2019 Educate for Life sprint. So we got testimonials, we got feedback, we got interesting points of view on what motivated everybody who participated in that sprint. And this has been so well documented now by Lucine and by Charlotte, and put into a paper that Lucine and Charlotte presented, like, remind me, 1 or 2 weeks ago at the EURAM 2020 conference. And I can tell you, I was just so excited about these findings. Again, there's a lot we can learn as a community to improve the work we do, to work even better together, to have even more impact on the world. And that's the exciting opportunity. And I think building on Lucine and Charlotte's amazing work since beginning of 2019 is such an amazing opportunity. And Lucine and Charlotte has agreed to come here again today, to do it over again, to do the presentation over again. And it's something to look forward to, I can tell you all. And after the presentation, I'm sure we'll get into a good discussion about the motivation factors of participation in a community like this. And all viewpoints, all experiences are welcome. But first, I think we should all give a round of applause to Lucine and Charlotte for the work they have done. and for being here with us on this Wednesday. So welcome, Lucine and Charlotte. Good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Lars, for this introduction. Charlotte, maybe you will say hello and then we'll start.
Okay, so hi everybody. So for the people I don't know yet, I had the chance to discover Educate for Life about 2 years ago, and to be like the pioneer, and discovering the EXO approach. So I was just opening the door and seeing light, and now I fully enter in everything. So I'm like 200% engaged in so many things, and actually it's thanks to Lars, because he decided to launch Educate for Life. So I'm also very about emotions today. So today I'm very happy to introduce you to Lucine. So with Lucine Azomagnon, we had the chance to do a couple of research papers about a key topic, which is innovation communities, because so currently I'm based in Morocco. Before I worked for Lego, where I manage an innovation community on learning through play. And before that, I was managing another innovation community at Group SEB, which is a French domestic appliance leader. And Lucine was a PhD student at this time, and she did her PhD about this innovation committee. So we are used to write together, like the collaboration is working very well. We love to do case studies together. So I'm very happy to introduce you Lucine. Today she's based in Lyon and France, and she will tell you more about this paper. And I think it's great because Educate for Life, when we did the paper, we didn't know it would become the committee it is today. So it was a case study, and now it's so amazing to see like it's an exponential community because it's really going like that. And so congratulations, Lars. And we will be able to talk later about that. So the paper was about what are the motivation factors that make the people engaging and participating in innovation committees. So please, Lucine, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, for your introduction. Do you want to share the slide, or you want that I share it?
If you don't mind to share, it's okay. Otherwise, I can do it. I have on my computer. It's up to you.
Please, if it is possible, yeah, it would be great. Thank you very much.
Hold on. I just go on the good. So first, I will go on Zoom. I share my screen. Educate for Life, sharing. And all, please tell me if you can see the screen for, especially
it's
Lucine.
Okay. Right. Just if you can just put on full screen, great. Thank you very much, Charlotte, for sharing the screen. Hello, everybody. It's a big pleasure to present you today this paper that we have written with Charlotte and Grace to Lars and all people who were directly involved by giving us different interviews we will speak about later. What I did for this paper, I decided to bring the academic approach. So I did my literature review, and Charlotte decided to bring to this empirical part, and she conducted lots of interviews with Lars, and we could at the end prepare this paper and present it to the European Academy of Management, which is one of the most prestigious conference in field of the management in the world, and it was really very, very interesting. Let me to present first of all what we have identified as introduction. What are the research gaps that we could identify? Next, please, Charlotte. Well, we saw that beyond the technological aspects, the success of an effective virtual community is mostly connected with the motivation of its members. And it's very important to be in a community where you can have lots of people who are really interested and who are really bringing their knowledge, their experience in order to improve things. So we decided to understand what can motivate these people, what are the motivation factors. But for the first time, we have already identified that in the literature, there is a research gap. And researchers also highlighted the real need for additional studies, not only for about the functioning of a community of practice, especially virtual communities of practice, but also especially about these motivation factors. So that's why we decided to work on this topic. Yes, please. Our research question was about what motivation factors drive people to put their effort and enthusiasm for knowledge collaboration in a virtual community of practice. And for doing it, next please, we have decided to mobilize the literature about the virtual communities of practice in general, and also the self-determination theory of motivation, because there are lots of different theories which can explain the motivation of people. But we decided to focus our attention especially on this literature, because we understood that people are sharing their experience when it's coming from them, and this is not something which is connected with the external world. I mean, we understood that the motivation, long-term motivation, is connected with intrinsic motivation. I mean that you are doing because you want to do, and not you are sharing your experience because you are rating some, external awards or some prime or something like this. So you are doing because you want to do, and that's why people are really contributing to different communities of practice. Next, please, Charlotte. In the literature review, as you see here, and as I have already said, we decided to focus on self-determination theory. Self-determination theory was developed in the beginning of 2000, so there are lots of different modifications that have been done in this field. But the main idea is that the founders of this theory, they think that people are motivated to grow and change around different topics by three innate and universal psychological needs. What are these psychological needs? Competence, autonomy, and relatedness. And let's see together what does it mean, competence, autonomy, and relatedness, according to these founders of this self-determination theory. Next, please, Charlotte. How these authors are defining the competence. According to them, people feel that they have the skills needed for success. They are more likely to take actions. It's like that you have, let's say, what is your field of specialization? It can be marketing, it can be management, it can be human resources, or it can be in completely other very different field of specialization that I have mentioned. But if you know that you have some skills, you have some competencies, you will be confident, and you will contribute more and more. I mean that first you have some competencies, and second, you know that this community can help you to acquire some additional competencies. So there is two meanings for this competence, okay? The second point is autonomy. According to these authors, people need to feel in control of their behaviors and goals. So people like them when they can control their own behavior, and they are not depending on the others. And the sense of being able to take direct action that will result in the real change. And of course, this factor of autonomy, it will play a major part in helping people feel self-determined. So I take the example, now it's already 4 years that I'm independent. I mean that I created my company, and at the same time I'm teaching. I have some teaching activities, and actually for me it was really important. I see on my own experience that if I have this level of autonomy, I will be more confident to share, and I will be more maybe open-minded to share and to contribute, to share my knowledge and share my experience when I see that this level of autonomy is granted. The last point is relatedness. you all know that people need to experience a sense of belonging and attachment to other people. So that's why they are coming together to share their experience, to feel that they are not alone in their corner, and actually they can share some experiences. They can have some free advices from people that they even don't know, which was, for instance, my case with Lars. And actually, you are here because you have this innate, let's say, psychological need to belong to something, to be surrounded from different people. These are the three main points of motivation factors that we have identified in the literature. And we said, okay, this is what is saying in the literature. Let's see if we can check it and we can confirm these ideas in our case of study. And actually, not only I will let you to see the details. Our value, our edit value was not only just to check if this is really the case, if people are motivated because there are these three factors: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Our aim in the beginning was to go ahead and to try to suggest something which will really have added value, and why not to suggest to offer a framework for people who are interested in this topic. For doing this, we decided to focus our attention on this virtual community of practice, Educate for Life, which is a 100% online virtual international community available through the platform. The sample of our research was just we are used purposeful sampling. I'm explaining what does it mean purposeful sampling. I mean that we have observed different interactions on platform, and we had different interviews with Lars in order to understand who are the people who are in core group. I mean, they are really 100% involved in this community, who are people who are just active and they are participating from time to time, and who are people who are here, but they don't have the same level of participation comparing with active people and core groups people. So in our sampling, we decided to include people from each level: core group, active member, and periphery, in order to understand what are their motivation factors. Globally, we could conduct 14 semi-structured interviews. What does it mean, semi-structured interviews? We had some open question. It wasn't just some questionnaire that we are sending and people are answering yes or no. We had some open questions, and we tried to have some, real interaction with these people in order to understand what are the real motivation factors. Why we are calling semi-structured? Because we had our guideline, interview guideline that we have developed with Charlotte before starting our interviews. So that's why we are calling semi-structured. All interviews were subscribed and actually transcribed and analyzed. For the analyze, we used the sentences, the verbatims with the different interviewer, and actually we could at the end identify some common factors for these two purposes. First of all, to understand if these three factors mentioned in the literature, they are really working, and to see for the second time if we can bring something new to the existing literature. Now I will invite Charlotte to develop the empirical part of the study and to present the results. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucine. So it was the methodological part to explain you what was the research question, what was the methodology, and now we will focus more on the case and the key findings. So as you know, the case was actually a year earlier, because it was about Educate for Life that was created in December 2018 by Lars. And the main goal of the community, as you know, is redefining what education means for children and adults and creating new types of education on the edge of the existing education system. So when we made the study with Lucine, there was about 22 core group members, 50 active members, and about 200 periphery members, who is participating in the life of community remains casual. So I will not go again on who, with whom we did the interview. I will focus on what we discovered. So there is actually two key findings. The first one is like there was a confirmation of the self-determination theory, and there was the proposal of a new motivation factor. For the confirmation of the self-determination theory, about the competence, actually we realized that people were joining this community because they were willing to learn something and grow their skills, like learning new techniques, grow their skills on the EXO sprint methodology. Many people were very interested in discovering the approach and having a hands-on learning because it was the opportunity offered by the community. And also some people, it was their first experience in the international online community, and actually they were willing to learn how is it working and how is it possible to grow such an international community. For the autonomy, actually what we realized is like people were happy to be here because they were the entrepreneur of their life. They were able to decide how to invest their time. And it's a privilege you do not always have. So they had the possibility to prioritize their time and interest, to get involved at several levels. For example, they could just be an observer of the community, or they could be an advisor where they could support one of the sprint team, or they could be a sprinter where they could be actively involved during 10 weeks in an EXO sprint. So they were able to pick the role of their choice and to invest their time as they wanted. And finally, there was a relatedness to a purposeful community. So they were happy to connect with like-minded people and also access a diversity of an international community, because actually there was people from very different backgrounds, from different countries and cultures. So it was very interesting, especially during the Hangouts, to chat with the people. And for these people, it was an opportunity also to expand their network. So for the proposal of new motivation factors, so through the interview, there was 3 main points that were underlined about the motivation. First, the people, they were very attracted by the massive transformative purpose. For those of you that already know EXO, so you know what it is. And for the one that do not know yet, at least one of the exponential attributes that are key to drive actually all the EXO transformation that is required. And in that case, for this community, the massive transformative purpose was a key motivation factor for people to join, because they all share the same interest to work on the future of education, to disrupt that. And they were all attracted by the possibility to have a collective impact. We will go back on that part. There was also the access to exclusive resources and activities. I will show you more with an illustration. And finally, there was the key role of the community leader. So let's focus on these 3 parts. So for, as I said, the massive transformative purpose, it was a key driver, actually, because what motivated people is to have a collective impact and to bring their piece of the puzzle and their knowledge, talent, time to be able to have a collective impact with other people. And designing the future of education was MTPs that was strong enough to bring people from different backgrounds and having the willingness to have different impacts. Some people, for example, they were much more interested in education for adults, other people much more about education for children or for teenager, university, etc. But all of them, they were willing to disrupt and imagine the future of education and to have a collective impact and to support themselves through mutual help. Regarding the exclusive resources and activities, I just copy-pasted some illustration because I don't know if you were here at the time. But for example, there was, actually it was the uniqueness of the resources are so amazing in Educate for Life, because there was a bunch of events, online courses and groups just to to have few examples. So in terms of events and hangout, people were able to launch their own sprint team. So it's still about autonomy. You could decide to say, hey, I have a great idea, who is willing to follow me? And if you were able to have followers, then you were able to start the adventure. It's what happened to me. Then there was a lot of social meet and greets, community call. So you had a lot of opportunities to meet members in, so there was already a lot of members, but you were able to connect with 4, 5, 15 people at the same time and have a little chat. And I remember also the Jerry's brain, where actually we were able to have a chat with Jerry. And for me, it's really like a key souvenir about that, where actually we were able to ask technical question, and he was able to search in his brain, which has a double sense. We can talk about that later. Then about unique resources, it's all these online courses. For example, on my side, I had the chance to do the Design Your Personal MTP that was transformational, because it helps you to say, okay, what will make you wake up at 6 in the morning and be super excited because you know you can achieve something amazing, and you're not even paid for that, but it's amazing. And then if you're lucky, you're able to do your passion job following your MTP, but still it was courses I've never seen before, and that it's such a added value for people. Then there was also speakers, like it was so interesting to have like a hands-on speakers that were coming to explain what they did and what were their challenges and lesson learned. So it was really like a hands-on community. And finally, there was also all these groups. So here I did some copy paste of current groups, but the thing is at the end, you do your market and follow your passion, and you will meet the people you want to meet and achieve the impact you want to achieve and develop your networking. So all of that is really, I've been studied and working with many communities, and I can tell you Educate for Life is really a case because it's so active. People are connected every day, they come, they chat, they support themselves, and it's the magic of the collective impact. And finally, last but not least, the impact and the key role of the community leader. So if I would have a question to ask to Lars is like, how do you do to be everywhere in so many places all the time? And
this Lars's avatar speaking.
Okay. I'm sure you have a trick, because actually, communities, it's also about people, and what was underlined in the interviews was actually the key role of the community leader, so it's Lars, that was really seen as an energizer. It's a person that was so optimistic and that has so much positivity that is contagious. And talking with Lars will always give you new ideas to connect with people, to follow something. And I don't know if it's the key component, but for me, it's one of the key drivers of the success and also the motivation of people, because the way people were welcome, the engagement was driven, actually was on a big extent on the shoulder of the community leader. It's not only that, but it's people also come because there was this leader in front of them. So thank you, Lars, for all this engagement. And if we continue about the findings, so in a research article, we always try to conceptualize things. And here, if I had to draw the key idea of the article, as you can see here, so the research question was, what motivation factor drive people to put their effort and enthusiasm for knowledge collaboration into virtual community of practice? And what we decided to do with Lucine and Lars was to position the member at the center, because actually it's you as a member that decide to do something of your life to have an impact. And then actually the member is like an entrepreneur that is able to invest his or her time, talent, and effort in a community. And why they will be willing to give so much and also receive so much is because they are attracted by the MTP of the community. So really the MTP is important to attract new members, but also retain active members. So in the case of Educate for Life, it's about redesigning the future of education. And then, of course, on top of all of that, so we we just underlined the self-determination theory, so the ability to be autonomous and have choice in the way you play your role of member, and the role you decide to pick, and the group you decide to invest. There was also, of course, the competence. People were happy to develop their skills and learn this EXO approach and have hands-on learning. And of course, the connection and the possibility to be connected with like-minded people. And as Lucinie said, this need to belong to a community was very strong. And of course, we also underline the key role of the leader as an energizer. That is the key person that helped all the music to play perfectly. So that was one of the key findings of the article. And as a conclusion, so of course we confirmed the self-determination theory, but why people are motivated to grow and change and join and be involved in the community. So to grow their competence, autonomy, and because there's a strong relatedness with the purpose and why this community is for. And also we underline things that actually are typically from EXO, like MTP, massive transformative purpose, because people want to have a collective impact, and that is also strengthened when there is a sense of urgency. There was also all these exclusive resources and activities that were available for people to grow and increase their competence. So that's what we have seen. And finally, the key role of the energizing leader. So in terms of limit and perspectives, of course, we could extend the analysis carried out over a longer period to measure the effect linked, for example, with the exchanges between members of the study community. The choice also made by Educate for Life to motivate its members could also be compared with other similar virtual community of practice. And also, we didn't take the technological angle because sometimes communities, they are just studied through the online tool that they are used, like in this case, it's Mighty Network, but we could have a specific focus on what is the role of the tool. Usually what we can see is like, it needs to be good enough not to be a barrier for engagement, but it will not be a motivation factor. It's just a way to support the engagement. So that's it for the presentation. And before to receive any question or remarks, actually, I don't know if you realize, but by the way, actually Educate for Life was created exactly 2 years ago. Sorry, Lars, if you were planning to do a special birthday in January. I decided let's celebrate today. We don't know how 2021 will come. And for the ones that were not here, I'm sorry because Justina Pietrzak is not here. She has been a key and amazing member since the beginning of the adventure. So at this period, when we celebrated the end of the sprint, the logo of Educate for Life was exactly as you can see on this cake. And remember, we were so amazed when one day Justina just sent a picture and say, okay, let's celebrate all this adventure. And we were just amazed by the work we did. And actually it's really like in French, we say a mascot. It means like a key symbol that we remember in the story of that. And of course, Educate for Life is not only a cake, it's people. It has been 2 years. There was this amazing adventure. And actually for Lars, we have just a little surprise for you, because usually when there's birthday, there's a birthday card. And actually there was many people that wanted to tell you, thank you, Lars, because you had such an amazing engagement. And so here, so I don't know if you can see that we collected a couple of key sentences from people that have been involved since the beginning. So if some people are not, feel free to join, but I think it's important. It's just few people from the beginning of the adventure, but it was just to say that Lars, actually you impacted the life of so many people. And I just think this Educate for Life adventure is so amazing. You brought an idea, and now it's a community, it's real people. You impacted the life of these people, and they are happy to be in this community. So really congratulations, Lars. We will send you the birthday card afterwards, and well done for everything. Yeah. And I'm done with the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow, this is a hard act to follow, especially trying to suppress the emotional feelings, which are amazing. Just for a few seconds while I'm trying to say something here. Thank you so much. This work is absolutely amazing because of the learnings that has been accumulated in this process, and because you know, it really shows how deeply everybody cares about the community that we are baking together. It's not it's more than a cake, right? It's a cake that actually we need to keep baking, and it's being baked by all of us together. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a cake today. So I just wanted to thank you so much for this. And this surprise is just, you know, amazing. Thank you so much.
With pleasure, Lars. So waiting that Lars is breathing again.
I'm trying to breathe again.
It was exactly the impact we wanted to have. We wanted to have emotion on Lars like this. You realize all the amazing things and jobs he has done. And waiting Lars to recover a little bit. I don't know if the participant, there is any questions you have. Also, maybe a nice way could be also to share. I'm sorry, I cannot see the chat, but I will see it later. But like if you have any questions, or maybe also if you would like to share what really motivates you to be part of this adventure, and also what could even strengthen your motivation to be part. If you have ideas about things that could be added or removed or exponentially changed, whatever, I think it's a good time to celebrate these 2 amazing years, and also think about 2021, because as we say in Moroccan, inshallah, it's coming soon. So feel free to share your ideas, and I'm sure Lars has recovered and can also animate the discussion. Yeah.
Let's open up everybody's microphones and get some thoughts and reflections. Thank you all for the comments in the chat here, by the way. Any immediate thoughts on this presentation? Thank you, Lucine and Charlotte, for doing it again. And I didn't cry the first time you did it. I was just impressed. This time was even better. But thoughts from anybody?
Yeah, go, Mark.
No, I'll go second.
Okay. No, I was really also surprised. It's really well structured, and I'm really interesting to read it, and with that information to narrow my research question. So I'm really happy, and it was really clear for me. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, hello from New Zealand. I'm Carla Taboada. Finally, I can meet you. I'm very happy. Unfortunately, the time difference is a challenge, but we are able to meet. Finally, I can meet Charlotte. Charlotte, nice to meet you. A long time I wanted to see you virtually, right? Thank you so much for the presentation. It was very clear. And for Lars, congratulations, felicidades in Spanish. We are here because of your great work. And just to mention that this community is a demonstration that it's not difficult to collaborate, even though you are very far, different places, different languages. But when you have a good leader and a good motivation, we can definitely go very far. Congratulations, and the best is yet to come. So let's keep working together to make a difference together as well.
Thank you, Carlita. We will. The best is yet to come. I agree.
So I will say a few things. First, I'm very happy to meet everybody who's here. Lars, you have built a good community. that I want to participate in, and that's always useful. And so hello to everybody that I'm meeting for the first time. And kia ora to New Zealand. But a couple of thoughts occur to me. One is that a lot of what happens now is that we are thinking about and doing literature searches and thinking about what is the sort of intrinsic nature of humans and what are our intrinsic motivations as humans and what are the factors that do this. And my perspective is that humans are changing. And that the things that were true in the 20th century, and that everybody who is an adult, of course, was born in the 20th century, the things that we thought were true may not be true anymore. And that it's very important to keep an open mind and not to talk about humans and human nature and all these things as if it were fixed forever. So that's one perspective. And then the second thing that occurred to me is when we think about this massive transformational purpose that attracts us all, and I'm one of those. It's a big sort of vacuous purpose. I mean, it covers a lot of ground. We're going to change learning. Well, we'd better say a little bit more about what that means, because I think people all think it's different and want to get something done. And the metaphor that I've been using, and I love this when Charlotte showed the cake. This was terrific. It's a beautiful cake, but it's covered with icing. It's covered, whatever's underneath we can't see. It's covered with that beautiful vanilla icing. And what I see has happened in education is that everybody in the world who wants to change it puts on new icing. But the cake never changes. The new icing could be technology, new icing could be motivation, new icing could be communities of practice, the new icing could be social emotional. The cake underneath is learning. And I think that's going to change. I think that's what's changing. That in the 20th century, partially due to the academic world, we came to believe that learning was the same as education, and that learning was an incredibly important thing for people to do, and that we needed to research learning and facilitate learning and do all these kinds of things. Now, I have nothing against learning, but I think in the 21st century, it's going to be about accomplishment. It's going to be about empowerment to accomplish things. And that's really, and so to me, that's the purpose of joining any group. Does it empower me to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish and have impact? And the rest of it, discussions, learning, isn't this nice, the common things, all the things that were listed as motivation, my competence goes up. I don't care about those things personally. I care about that I'm able to do something. And so I really don't want to measure learning. I don't want to measure competence. I don't want to measure any of those kinds of things. I want to measure accomplishment. I want to measure world improving accomplishment. And it's all going to happen. I care less about personal motivations because everything happens in teams now. So we are becoming symbiotic with machines and with teams and with other people. And that's really, so when I look at the future of education or almost anything else, I think we have to put on new lenses and very carefully take off the lenses that came to us in the 20th century. Thank you.
Can I respond?
I'm happy for you to hear from you, Rick.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I'm a newbie, so I'm jumping into something that I know little about. But
me too, by the way.
The newbie eyes is, and you probably already have this, is what is the group about in terms of, you know, and so having something, but I'm getting the gist of it, but I'm just saying, if you want to expand one, and you may already have this, but I just happen to see this flash up, oh, I'll come and see what's happening here. But I'm very interested in the whole notion of communities of practice. And to build on your comments, Mark, you know, the other thing is what is the cake, using that metaphor? And I would add creativity to the learning, and maybe use the word impact. So how can we have impact on real problems in the world from the get-go, from the very earliest education, focusing on what we can make a difference in, an impact. And it takes the whole notion of peer review process in a completely different direction, because it's not your peers rating how good your articles are. It's actually saying, are you making a difference in the world? Because getting good peer reviews and whatever doesn't necessarily have any impact in the world. So there's a malalignment in higher education in terms of impact. And I came from academia. I was at the University of Rochester, and I knew Ed Ryan and Ed Deasy. So one question I have, and it ties in a little bit to what you're saying, Mark, is to what extent is this group sort of, you know, this is just one theory. How much of this one theory is part of this group's esprit de corps versus lots of other things, which I think there's a lot of emergent things happening that is taking education a new way. And I'll just say one thing and then let somebody else respond. But I just discovered this group, which many of you may already know, called ENSO Education. I don't know if you've heard of ENSO Education. I can put it into I'll put it in the chat box. I just discovered and connected it, but they're thinking along the very similar lines. And I'm just thinking, well, how many communities of practice around them focusing on this don't even know about each other? You know, saying education sucks as we now know it, and it has to change radically because we've got such monumental problems ahead of us that we're so ill-equipped to deal with them. So anyway, I'll put that in and let somebody else respond.
And I'll just say 2 seconds, and then this is my last thing. Lars and I recently founded something called the Ministry of Empowerment, Accomplishment, and Impact. And the idea is to say, well, we have plenty of ministries of education in the world. They're focused on something else, mostly learning. We need empowerment, accomplishment, and impact. So I'm with you 100%, Rick. And my mission is to connect everybody who is thinking that way. I'm writing a book to do it, and we're trying to bring everybody together. So please connect me to that group. And by the way, thank you, Charlotte, for your presentation.
Well, let me throw in a couple pennies worth of stuff here. My obsession in life is language, the voice in our head, and the way it influences our thinking. And it seems to me that humans have been literally entranced by the voice in their head for the last 200,000 years. But a couple thousand years ago, a few individuals began to awaken from that trance, and religions got founded around those people. But now I see there's just this exponential awakening occurring on the planet now, that we are now waking from the trance of language. And this language gets imposed on us in the first 5 or 6 years before kids even get into the system. They learn primarily from their parents and from the television about how language functions. And English is taking over the planet. For some reason, I'm not quite sure why, but there's a lot of potential reasons. But the point is, English is deeply flawed. And anyone who thinks in English is subject to certain unconscious, erroneous assumptions. And until we get a critical mass of humans who are no longer entranced by the stories running in their language machine, I don't think we have a chance. Although I'm optimistic. See, I think Earth is going through a kind of metamorphosis now. Earth itself is a living organism, and it's started a couple, maybe 10,000 years ago. This punctuation started, and we're close to the end of it. I'm expecting a kind of outbreak, if you will, of what some people call enlightenment on this planet in the next 20 to 30 years. It's proceeding rapidly. So as I see it, the real challenge is to wake up the next two generations of children from the trance of language, so that they're able to evaluate the stuff their language machine tells to them, rather than believing it and going out and killing people because the story in their head tells them to do that. For us to be able to actually listen to the voice in our head and evaluate whether it makes any sense or not. It can be a wonderful tool, or it can be a plague. And natural English is okay for bowling, and it's good for love letters too, but it's not good for good analysis, and we need that. So my aim is, like I say, to wake up the next two generations of children from the trance of language. Over.
I'll just add, sorry, Heron, just to clear up a misconception, since we talked the other day. You're not saying that any other language is great either. There's no language that currently exists that's a natural language. And in fact, we agree English is actually the best one, but it's still deeply flawed. Just so you're not...
Yeah, it's the least bad.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. But the problem is English is taking over the planet, right, and we need to debug English. Yeah. It's not the only one that's flawed. There may be some that are less flawed, but for whatever reason, English is, well, I prefer to call it Earthling. It's really has nothing to do with England anymore. It's the language of Earth, and we need to clean it up so that we can think better and communicate better and create a new world. Thanks, Daniel. And I'm not suggesting also that this debugged form of English is for everything. It's for analysis. It's for when we need to do problem solving and thinking about things. It's for bowling or love letters or poetry. There's all sorts of other things that natural language is really good at. And we don't need to be analysts all the time. But when we do need to do analysis, that's when we need a debugged subset of English. So it's for part of life. It's only for solving problems.
But we can is it possible for us to solve problems on a different level besides the spoken word?
Oh, I suppose so. It's just that language is probably the primary method that it gets done in. No, there's all sorts of other, I'm an artist and I'm also a musician, and it's quite clear that when I'm doing those things, that doesn't necessarily involve language. There are other ways we organize our thoughts and our thinking processes that are different, but language is the primary method that we use for thinking and communicating.
So if I may, I have a question for Lars. If you can tell us a bit more about how do you see 2021? So not from a COVID perspective, but from a Educate for Life perspective. Give us some good news and yeah, just to have an overview. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that is coming next on our agenda, and I've set aside a bit of time right after here, actually pretty much from now on, to give you a glimpse of what is about to begin, which is 2021, but also a lot of activities in the context of Educate for Life. And I just wanted to add a little bit to the great conversation that we just had here about different ways of communicating and different ways of solving problems. There's the language, there's music, there are many ways. I think the fact that we have a pretty good awareness amongst us in our community about this, and the fact that we are discussing it shows us that we are probably in a really good position to help our planet during these critical months and years, as we do see a lot of challenges facing us personally, facing our businesses, facing our initiatives. These are not easy days. And I think now more than ever before, there's a need for communities that are passionately driven by a particular purpose. And we need many of these communities with their different specialties, I guess. And we are such a community. And I'm extremely proud also of seeing not just the amazingness of each of you and everybody in our community, but also a very rapidly increasing engagement level and activity level from many in our community. And I'm going to share about that now and give you a glimpse, maybe first, of the last 30 days in our community. And did Charlotte just drop? Because I wanted her to see this. Just like I lost connection a moment ago. But meanwhile, I want you to enjoy my my crystal Christmas decorations here. It has to be virtual, obviously. But nevertheless, it certainly shows that celebrations are coming up at a family level, and I really think we should celebrate as a community as well, not just our birthday. And thank you again for all the wishes that go right back to you as being the ones to make this happen. But also we need to celebrate that we have so much opportunity ahead of us to really create the future of education. Again, whatever that means. That is what our community and the many different teams that are working in our community are going to define and create their own initiatives based on what they're each interested in. Just like we've been doing the past 2 years, it's absolutely amazing to see teams self-forming and deciding what they want to do, right? And then we as a community will be here to support. We'll provide the sprint process if that's the right thing for the team. We'll provide resources. We'll open doors if we can. That kind of supportive community is something everybody needs to build around themselves, around their organization. If we don't have a supportive community, we have nothing. I tend to believe now, the more I study the creation of communities, the more I understand the power and the importance of having a strong community, being part of it. Just like we've been having supportive villages around us for centuries, right? We grew up in a village that was there to support us in our growth. And now that we're all virtual, we need to find ways of doing that online. And I think we are finding ways to do things online. We are growing day by day, and I want to show a few metrics here. And I think Charlotte and Lucine, maybe I'm happy to send this for the continued work on our studies. What you're seeing here, it's hard to read, but it's just to show that we are over 500 of us now. We are growing on a daily basis. We have a high rate of returning members and contributing members. According to Mighty Networks, we rate as excellent in most of these growth categories. Although that is not kind of the most important thing, it does show that we are doing something that is valuable to our community members. They are coming back. They are coming back to launch new initiatives, to discuss new ideas, to discuss the state of the world, and so on. So these are just a few metrics here from the last 30 days that I pulled this morning. And comparing to the amazing paper that Lucine and Charlotte presented, we were 100 or something members when those interviews were done, and now we are, I think, 515 or something, and growing day by day. So when that happens, we also grow more muscle as a community. And we also see more members, actually, they want to accomplish more. And also in the context of our community, they see more opportunity for themselves, for their initiatives in the scope of Educate for Life as a community. And it's a self-reinforcing mechanism, I think, as more people join and more people get more involved and engaged and active, even more people will join, assuming that they are attracted to our massive transformative purpose. One of the beauties of our community is that everybody is interested and attracted to the future of education. And one of the major success factors in the community building we have done the past 2 years has been our sprint. The sprint has been a community activity that has been bringing people together. And we together have gone through a rather challenging process where we have been up during nighttime and during weekends, and over 10 to 12 weeks, we've been accomplishing way more than we thought was possible, right? That is typically what happens in a successful sprint. And we test some hypotheses, and we do it together with others who are okay when we share crazy moonshot ideas, right? And also when we have controversial viewpoints, it doesn't matter, because we really need to think differently to get to new results and new solutions in our world. And we all know that. So we do need to change our way of thinking. So those crazy thoughts and ideas is often where we find new inspiration to what we need to do next. And we inspire each other on that journey. So that was a long runway to get to my first announcement here for 2021, which is, of course, we are doing the sprint again. Right? We have done a 2019 sprint. We have done a 2020 sprint. Of course, there's going to be a 2021 sprint, right? And it's starting in January. So it's coming up very quickly. And I want to show here some of the teams that are already ready to kick off. But we are just now actually opening for registrations for the sprint, but we have a lot of teams already, and actually 2 teams that already started a little bit. They couldn't wait, so they have been testing our new content and the improved tools and resources that we're making available to every one of you who want to be part of the sprint again in 2021. We are very excited to have a sprint team which is focused on what we're doing with Planet Pilots. And many of you know Planet Pilots very well. It's about supporting a healthy planet managed by empowered kids. And we want to find, as a beginning, 1,000 ways to empower kids, just to get us started. We have found several already. Diana is part of the core team. Mark and Charlotte are amazing board members, and they're involved in everything now about Planet Pilot. Thank you so much for that. And now we have a sprint team that joined a couple of months ago our community to really focus on empowerment of kids. So they are going to help us to ideate and think crazy thoughts and go through the sprint process with the focus on empowering kids. So that's the team. By the way, you will find in our Mighty Network an article here by Mark. I'm not sure if Mark is, I think Mark is on the call. Yeah, no, the other Mark, sorry. Mark.
Yeah,
Moore.
he's right up in there.
I'm
Mark.
here, but there's lots going on in the background.
It's okay, Mark. Okay, thanks for being here. I'm just sharing here an article that Mark and his team, his sprint team, has put together as part of the first sprint week assignment. And the rest of you are going to see that in January. But Mark Moore and his team already worked on it and completed it. And here's the article. So please, everybody, jump whenever you have a moment into our community platform and read the article and give Mark feedback on it. It's about future trends and the hidden power of education to unleash humanity's potential. So over to our next team. This is about rapid reskilling of our workforce. And this is a team that has been part of the X Prize Rapid Reskilling Challenge already for a while. Includes amazing friends from our community like Gabriel and Carmen and Anne and Mark, our Mark Prinsky, very own Mark Prinsky here as well, and Paul Epping and myself. So we are continuing with our moonshot ideation on how can we actually rapidly reskill all those people who unfortunately are losing their jobs and with that very often losing maybe some of our identity and losing belief in the future. So if the right thing is to get reskilled and be supported a little bit into a new trajectory for ourselves, a new career path, that is what we want to do. We want to help them. We want to find solutions to do that. So we have a team in place to do that. And we have one more team working on a very similar challenge. And this is a team with Jennifer and Omar and Jongkong and Francis and Connie and Angelo. I saw Angelo earlier on the session here as well. And they are very focused also on empowerment, by the way, empowering human beings. So they are not just being reskilled into a new occupation, but something that they're really passionate about. And that's a life change. And we all know that. So Mark Prinsky, that's something for you as well to be introduced to. This team is absolutely incredible. I literally have their submission to X Prize sitting on my desk here, which I need to submit within 1.5 hours. That's the submission deadline. So, so looking forward to that. They have been up late in the Philippines, where most of this team is based. We obviously have also here, we have one more Planet Pilot team here with Kasim and Omar and our core team at Planet Pilots. Again, focusing on empowerment of kids. And here's again, the core team, which is going to be mentoring and supporting these teams throughout the process to help share what we have learned about empowerment, about the importance of accomplishments and these things. And Mark, you'll be invited to play a role in this. Our generous guardian and supporter on this journey. And we have a lot of contributors. I'm not going to name everybody on the call here, but lots of people have been part of this. And did I forget to mention Planet Pilots is actually one of the initiatives that came out of the 2020 sprint earlier this year, this very year. So we have been accelerating the work on this, knowing that kids were in lockdown at home, couldn't get to school, couldn't connect to their friends, couldn't connect to their educational offerings. What do we then do? Well, we found that we were probably holding on to a solution. So we needed to launch immediately. This was in March. We had come up with this initiative. We needed to launch, right? The world needs this badly, and we did. And we are now working on building our empowerment hub. It's something Mark can talk about for hours also, and we certainly can. We are on our second generation of it already, and happy to share that soon. But this is a platform where we study empowerment, but more importantly, we study actually the Planet Pilots of different ages. And you see some of them here on the screen. We study what they want to do with their lives, what they think is right to do for our planet. And we think they know how to deal with these issues that we as adults are struggling with. All we need to do is empower them, connect them, and then build the tools that they are going to need probably. So that's the process we are in. So if you in your sprint work are going to need to work with kids, we have them. If you need to work with adults out there in the world that is looking for new ways of living and working and studying, we have them. So all you need to do, guys, is sign up for the 2021 sprint. And I'll get to where and how in a minute. I just wanted also to share some work. Also, I've been putting quite a lot of time in this year, and money cannot grow on trees, to my knowledge. I don't know if you have figured that out. I want to know, because we do a lot in the future of agriculture as well, and these things. So that could be some synergies there, but I've not yet found out how to get money to grow on trees. But I have discovered that we are getting a lot of interest from investors around in different countries. And we want those investors, if they want to get involved in supporting our teams on this journey, they need to be impact investors. We are not interested in traditional investments into initiatives. We want investors to understand how we feel in our community, what is important for us. That's a positive impact in our world. And if we need to, if all is about return on investment for shareholders, then we're no different from the corporate world. And there's nothing wrong with that, except we are different. We want to make an impact, a positive impact on the world, and we want impact investors on board. They have been hard to find, but fortunately we have friends from Epic Hub, for example, from our EXO community, and I work closely with them throughout the year to build relations. I've been continuously updating them on our progress, on our community members, what's going on, and they are very interested in supporting us. So they will be in our various panels throughout the coming sprint to help give us feedback from an impact investor perspective. So what we are doing can be also relevant for impact investors. Only for those teams that are interested in attracting impact investors, obviously. But we want to make that available. We think it's important to involve the funding part as well, because we haven't really seen anything interesting in terms of traditional investor approach. So I'm personally training investors on impact investment starting from January, and we have several investor networks that wants this training and they want to experience what this is all about. And we're starting with a couple of hundred investors that first was to experience us going through the sprint process, experience what it's like to work in a community like this, and what kind of initiatives we are interested in. They will find out then, is it interesting for them? And we'll find out, you know, what value they will bring to the table, and see if there are any synergies there. So I'm just mentioning this because funding always comes up as a good and relevant question when teams are maturing their work and seeing a real opportunity to really launch the work they're doing. So that is happening as well. And the sprint, as I said, will start in January 18th is where we have our kickoff event. And you can register your interest by going to our events section. That's step one. Step two is to choose the kickoff event on January 18th and simply register your interest, RSVP, that you're joining. And the page looks like this. That's where you register. And when you register, I will know that you're interested, and then you will be included in the communication about the sprint, and you can then A, register a team if you have one, or B, you can join what I think is a strongly improved process from here on to help people meet and help people get to know each other and see if they really want to team up, right? Because it's also a pity if you team up and you find out 5 weeks later that I don't like to be in this team. I want a different team. If we could find out relatively easily before the sprint begins. So we have improved the team building process, which starts now and ends on January 18th when the sprint begins. So you register your interest, share this with anybody that you think could be interested. We have a lot of teams, as I showed, already lined up. Some already started giving feedback on the content, the resources that everybody else will be seeing from January. So this is just to get us started. I have no idea what we'll be talking about in the second half of 2021. I don't think anybody knows, given the disruption that's happening and the rapid pace of change. So that's really about the upcoming sprint and the opportunity to participate in that. I'm going to stop talking here and happy to take questions or comments.
Maybe Lars, if I may, so I just have a question for this 2021 sprint. Like there's a lot of topics about empowerment. Is it like the topic of the year, or any team can work on anything? It's just a pure hazard if many people are interested in empowerment?
Yeah, it's a good question, Charlotte. I have not set this theme at all. The interesting thing is, and also the X Prize team that is submitting in a few hours, they have been talking all morning to me about empowerment of unemployed workers, which is amazing. So I didn't set this theme, but it certainly become a theme. But you can join on other subjects as well. Absolutely, there's no limit here.
No, actually, I'm super interested in empowerment, so I'm happy to see that. And just to let you know, maybe a Moroccan team will engage, because we just did the launch of the EXO Moroccan community yesterday to prepare the EXO Decade of Tomorrow. And the big topic is about education for all. So maybe, I think it would be a great opportunity for people from Morocco to discover, because the sprint is the best way to have a hands-on learning. So I will try to push some, encourage people to register if they really want to discover the approach. Yeah, but thank you for organizing. It's great. Thank you.
Exciting, Charlotte, and congratulations on your kickoff yesterday. It's amazing. Any other thoughts or questions or comments?
Lars, do you know what Salim has on his plate for January?
Not really, but he's promised me to tell me about it. So when he knows, I guess I will know as well. So no, I don't.
Okay. The EXO community is quite huge. It's massive. It's
yes.
beautiful. A beautiful thing worldwide. It's a noisy world, technical world out there, and we need to find ways to simplify that. We haven't had a chance to catch up in a long time, but I have the honor and pleasure of being able to lead opening day now, as its guardian moving forward. I have some beautiful dreams for it, and that involves yourself and Salim and other major team leaders. 2021 is an opportunity to bring all of these teams together.
Absolutely, looking forward to that. There's so many synergies. So obviously that I think it will happen. Like Mark says, the universe will make it happen. Will let you know something you should know, and like things happen for a reason. And for those who don't know, actually, Educate for Life started because I had my own very personal reasons and strong reasons for doing something about the educational world, which I wanted to change. And a lot of friends from the Open EXO community said, hey, what are we doing then? And I was like, okay, I need to take action now, right? And this was in December 2 years ago. And we set up a Slack channel very quickly. And then we had new members joining from China, and we couldn't use Slack. And so I was like, I had to build a website. And when I had the website, now we started to, we needed something more community friendly. And that became Mighty Networks from day one, and the rest is history. But it really started in the EXO community, and many of our members in Educate for Life are very active in the Open EXO community as well. It makes, obviously, this has to happen, and in some joint partnership, absolutely.
I look forward to talking more about that with Salim and yourself. And
me too, MB. Thank you.
Charlotte would love you to be a part of that conversation as well.
Absolutely.
I look forward to that.
And I also want to salute Jerry for his, amongst other things, but his background and roasting marshmallows and in the Christmassy kind of theme there. I like that. And Jerry, so good to see you. It's been a long time. Thank you for being here. We have a lot
here. Thank you.
Yes.
And congratulations. No, I just was looking for bonfire and then sort of festive or some Zoom background. And then this popped up. So I'm like, okay, this looks great.
It does. It does. Nice pick. Nice pick. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little challenge to find a bonfire background image that doesn't have the bonfire in the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
So that was one of my criteria. And then I found like the marshmallows and the deer and the trees. And I'm like, this is perfect. But congratulations on 2 years of Educate for Life. This is awesome. And a lovely posse you have gathered with interesting projects. And it's very fun to visit. Thank you. And I have to bounce at the half hour, I'm afraid. But it's really nice to see everybody.
we
Very
are
nice
wrapping it.
Congratulations to everyone. I need to pop off now. Congratulations, Lars. Pleasure to see everyone again, and I'm looking forward to seeing how 2020 evolves for us all.
Wishing you all the best for the year to come. We'll do it together. We'll take it on together as another challenge and another opportunity, and we will make the impact that we are talking about here. I know we will, and I'm starting to see how we do it, and a big part of it is because of you. So congratulations to each and every one of you on the 2nd birthday, and happy holidays for those who are celebrating.
Thank you very much, Lars. Me too, I would like to thank you for everything that you are doing for all of us and for our children. And this is really great experience, and long life to your community.
It will. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lars.
Bye.
And thank you all. Have a great end of the year, and see you next year, inshallah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year. See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.